Right, welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about what's going on with this data breach. On Wednesday, Experian, one of the world's largest credit bureaus, had a data breach which resulted in the unintended release of 24 million South Africans' personal information. The credit bureau said that an individual who posed as a legitimate client duped them into releasing ID numbers, bank account details, cell phone numbers, and the addresses of millions of local consumers. So yesterday, the Chief Executive Officer of Experian Africa, Ferdie Pieterse, categorically stated that they have the situation under control as the alleged fraudster was apprehended and a hard drive with the sensitive information on it was seized by authorities. Pieterse also added that none of the information that was in the suspect's possession was misappropriated. Now, let's talk more about this. Alistair Fairweather, a technology consultant at Plain Speak Technology, joins us now to discuss the issue. Alistair, welcome. Good to have you.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here.
So, a bit concerning, it really is for South Africans. So let's try and understand what's going on. So, Experian's head, Pieterse, said that none of the information that was in the suspect's possession was misappropriated. How does he know that?
So they're assuming that because they couldn't find any of those details on any of the normal channels that one would find such stolen details on, that they weren't misappropriated. They may be right. I'm not 100% confident that they can make that claim definitively. It's good that they've apprehended someone. Obviously, excellent. I mean, I think an important detail here, which has been missed and only really emerged yesterday, is that the breach itself happened in May. They only found out about it in July, and they're only telling us about it now. So it's actually, the horse has actually bolted a long while ago. There are some reasons that they had to do it that way. Not that they had to wait several months to discover it, but certainly that they might have been able to tell us a bit earlier.
That is alarming because, you know, when we talk about a data breach, everything is available. And, you know, this is something where your privacy is compromised, your safety is compromised when we talk about addresses, details, sure, all of that kind of stuff. So is there a reason why they said it took this long to actually come forward and tell 24 million South Africans about this?
So the initial delay from May to July is because what actually happened is a person as you said, a person impersonated. This isn't a hack, and that's important because a hack means that they would not be able to definitively know what was stolen, how much, and in some cases when. They can track this because the person via email and phone pretended to be a customer. And when we say a customer of Experian, we don't mean one of us. We mean like a large bank, a large financial services institution like an insurer. They obviously figured out that, say, Outsurance, it isn't Outsurance, I don't know who it is, but that they could pretend to be Ferdie at Outsurance, and because Ferdie deals with the Experian people, and then this person pretended to be that person from whatever, it could be Standard Bank, it could be anyone else, and said, can I please have more details on X, Y, and Z? And then they obtained that information. They were clever enough to socially engineer, that's what it's called, but they weren't clever enough to not get caught, which is interesting. Yeah. What's really dangerous about this breach, more than anything else, is that what actual hackers and actual thieves of people's money rather than just data, because there are lots of people who just steal data, not money. But the people who want to steal your money or impersonate you or steal your identity, the more pieces of personal information, verifiable personal information they have, the more likely it is that they can work out how to break into your email account or open a credit card in your name or marry you, so that they can have citizenship. So those are really the sort of identity fraud type stuff. Also, phishing emails, the emails which try to get you to reveal your detail, your password, etc., are much easier to craft when you know about a person. You know their age, maybe an estimate on their income, you know where they live. If you think about what secret questions you're often asked to provide when you sign up for an account, it's often things that a credit bureau would know, previous maiden names, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we talk about your banking details, that's something, perhaps that's not as compromised as your personal identity, because that's very, very dangerous. Mm-hmm. how would I know? How do I know if I am one of the 24 million people? Because, this obviously it was said that this is Experian. We know what Experian does. They basically collect the data or credit information about consumers from banks, retailers, and other parties. So it doesn't mean just because I haven't been contacted by Experian, they may very much so have my data. How would I know if I've been compromised?
Well, what they should do, which is what has happened in the United States and in Europe when there have been big breaches like this, because credit bureaus are a favorite target of these kinds of scammers and thieves because of the wealth of data that they have, is that these companies should be compelled to contact everyone whose data may have been breached and disclose that so that you know. In reality, as you say, if you have any kind of credit product, and I mean any kind of credit product, like an Edgar's Club card, you will be in at least 3 of the major databases of the credit bureaus. That's by law. So your details are there. So what's sort of not clear and what needs to be made clear is how much data was leaked exactly and what kind of data. So there's a material difference between just your ID number, your name, and your address, although those are obviously very harmful. And, for instance, which accounts you have. Are you a telecom customer? Are you an MTN customer? How much do you pay on your MTN account? All things that credit bureaus will actually have in their databases. I have no indication. There's no indication, and I have no data or understanding that is the case. That sort of level of detail was leaked, and we hope not. But really, the Experian needs to be as transparent as possible, as quickly as possible. The one thing they can't do, of course, is post the database online to see so that we can check if our details are in there.
Absolutely.
Because that will be a bit self-defeating.
Exactly, that would be. But so as you say, I mean, the company says that they allege the perpetrator's hardware was seized and the data was deleted. I mean, do you think this is enough to protect our identities? This could be held by others. I mean, surely he's not working alone.
Yes. The unfortunate truth is that there have been enough breaches in South Africa that I am quite confident that most of our data is somewhere out in the dark web already. That shouldn't make us feel happy because some people still may not have the level of detail. People's ID numbers change, people get born, people die, all of those sorts of things. So it's important how recent data is in terms of if you really want to spearfish people and get them to give you actual money. But we should all rest assured that, I mean, there's some websites which I can share with you guys that you can share with your viewers, which will let you check worldwide whether your email address, etc., and your password are compromised. Those do have some of the South African breaches, those databases. They won't tell you what your password is or what your email address is, but if you supply either of those to them, and it's an Australian guy mainly, it's called Have I Been Owned? He is very trustworthy, he's a security expert, and he doesn't keep any of your data. He just tells you that he has found this data in a database online that was leaked. So there's no chance that he will leak any data, but you can find that out. And that's often very helpful. You want to have things like South African ID numbers. Although he actually may do, because that stuff has been floating around, unfortunately. These big, somewhat slow, old-fashioned financial services companies are unfortunately easy prey for these guys who are nimble and clever and can worm their way in. And that shows here, that just with a bit of clever social engineering, you can steal a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm on this website now. I'm checking if I have been owned, because this is the website that you visit. You trust this? You trust this quite emphatically?
Yes, I trust it explicitly and implicitly.
Okay.
Yes,
so if people
he's a very good guy.
So if you want to check out, you go onto this website. Have I been owned? But it's been pwned.com. Yeah. I'm checking. I'm holding my thumbs. Oh no, pwned. On 6 breach sites and found no pastes. So maybe I don't know what that means. Does that mean I've been breached?
That means you're okay. That means you're okay.
Oh, it means actually. I'm okay. Okay,
I'd have to look at the site. Yeah, I think so.
So
yeah.
I mean, if you look, that's one way of
clear.
protecting.
There's no. Yes, that's one of at least understanding how much of your data has already been leaked. let me just be 100% clear. That's not where you would find the current Experian breach stuff necessarily. No. Although this guy's very good, so he may already have some of it. Given that it's been in the wild for several months, so Experian claimed this guy was just stealing this data so that he could mock it to people. They may be right. I have no reason to believe that they're lying. I also have no reason to believe that they're telling the truth. So I'm agnostic on that question. However, I'm not sure that they can definitively say that he didn't share it with someone else. Yeah. He may have wanted to market to people, but that kind of data is very lucrative. You can sell that kind of data at like R1, R2.50, depending on how deep it is, per record. So that's per person. So you can, that would be a very good price. But you can imagine that you could make R1 million overnight selling to the right dark web scammer. Yeah. Of course, you could be selling to an FBI agent or an Interpol agent and get yourself arrested if you don't know what you're doing. That also happens. But if there's an enormous web of people around the world, in every country, Brazil, Russia, here, Australia, China, stealing this data and sharing it with one another and paying one another to hack and to phish and to all of these sorts of things. So really, we shouldn't be alarmed by this as any more alarmed than usual, but never share your OTP with someone.
Yeah.
If you get an email saying you 400,000 Rand is deposited into your account, if you weren't expecting 400,000 Rand, then don't click the link. If it seems too good to be true or even slightly suspicious, if the logo's off, if one word is misspelled, don't click.
Yeah.
That's got to be the rule. Your bank does not contact you directly and out of nowhere to say, I have a surprise for you, or can you give me this information that I should already have about you? Yeah. And that applies to your Editor's Club card, your bank, your insurer, all of those people.
Yeah. You're making me pretty nervous, and I think you're making a lot of people nervous as well, and rightfully so, because if you look at Experian, it is one of the world's biggest credit bureaus. And basically, I mean, this breach in data says a lot about big companies' security systems. If an individual could pose as a legitimate client and then get access to such information. And we, as a generation, and the way we live right now, everything is online. Every single detail of our lives is online. What does this say about security in these companies?
So I will say that in their defense, and my sympathies go out to their security team. This was a people breach. One of their people, was a human being, and that was what was exploited rather than their systems per se. However, that is not an excuse per se. They need to be better at double checking, and they also shouldn't really just be sending data out willy-nilly. I know that in the hurly-burly of business, this can happen. Especially if someone is a very clever con artist, which is essentially what this person is. But they need to get better. Honestly, as I say, they're a little bit creaky and old-fashioned. Their business model hasn't materially changed in many decades. They've gotten a bit more digital about it, but really they've been kind of a comfortable plumbing. They've been part of the plumbing around the world. Other things to watch out for are the hackers and crackers are starting to attack the interconnectivity stuff. So the payment switching guys, they've attacked those in several countries. So not the credit card companies or the banks, but the people who connect the credit card companies, the banks, and the stores. So all of these guys who've been very comfortable and they kind of have very old-fashioned IT departments and very old-fashioned IT practices are going to have to get a lot better because the hackers are more nimble. They understand the stuff better, and they're a better con men and con women, for that matter.
Yeah. Just wrap it up. A final question to you. I mean, we saw a very similar thing happening in America. At the U.S., it was a breach. I think it was the U.S. Credit Bureau, Equifax. We saw them, of course, coming up. This was in 2017, and I think about 140 million people's information was compromised. They came out, they reached a settlement of 600 million with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission. Not sure something like that will happen here in South Africa, but is it fair to say there might be more to this as people become aware of it and may find that they have been compromised?
As I said, the minimum should be that Experian would need to contact these people some way. Yeah. So it's not 100% clear that they would have all of their contact details, or that those details would be up to date enough to contact those people. But a good faith attempt should be made at the very least. I'm kind of agnostic on big fines from regulators, unless there's actual malfeasance or lack of diligence in this case. But really, at the very least, they should contact all the people who they definitively know were affected somehow or some way and say, at the very least, we're sorry, and this is what happened. And I think that's important.
Yeah, very. Listen, thanks so much for talking to us. And again, thanks for that website, because I think a lot of people, I'm already seeing so many people coming on and saying that they are having a look and seeing if their data has been compromised in any way. It's that website, Have I Been Pawned? But pawned is PWNED. Put your email address in there and then it'll come up. Okay.
It's hacker speak. It's irritating, isn't it?
Tell me about it. I don't know. These IT worlds, they're very different. Alistair Fairweather, thanks for talking technology with us. He, of course, is a technology consultant, talking to us about that Experian Credit Bureau's unintended release of 24 million South Africans' personal details to an alleged fraudster who posed as one of their clients. Also, as we were doing that interview, I see a breaking news story has come through. The acting city manager of the Nelson Mandela Bay, Mboleni Mapu, has been arrested now. He was taken into custody by the Hawks in a pre-dawn raid. This happened in Port Elizabeth. And now what we know is that the arrest is in connection with corruption charges linked to the Department of Housing, where he is a director. Of course, SABC News bringing you much more detail on the story. Our reporters are there. They will be bringing us a report on this through the day. So do stay tuned to SABC News and we'll follow up more on that story.